Nobody wakes up and says, "Today I'm going to destroy my business." Nobody says, "Today I'm going to lose customers." "Today I'm going to forget important things." "Today I'm going to create unnecessary stress for myself." Nobody plans that. And yet, that's exactly what happens.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Not because business owners are lazy, not because they're careless, but because of one innocent word: later. And that's what makes later so dangerous. It doesn't sound dangerous. It sounds responsible, reasonable even. I'll track the expenses later. I'll reply that customer later. I'll organize the inventory later. I'll follow up later. I will document the process later. And little by little, later
Tunde,
becomes
I need those units
tomorrow.
today. No,
Tomorrow
I don't care about the
becomes
traffic. We have
next
serious
week.
shortages here,
And next
customers are
week
complaining.
becomes next month. Meanwhile, the business keeps moving. Orders keep coming in. Customers keep asking questions. Problems keep piling up. And without realizing it, you start carrying things that should have been solved weeks ago. And that's exhausting. Because unfinished tasks don't just live on your desk, they live in your head. That's why so many business owners feel overwhelmed all the time. Not because they are bad at business, but because they're carrying too many unfinished decisions. And here's the scary part. Businesses rarely die because of one big mistake. They die slowly. One missed receipt, one missed follow-up, one inventory count you postponed, one customer you forgot to reply to. None of these things look dangerous until they are. Because problems compound. One missed follow-up becomes a lost customer. One lost customer creates stress. Stress creates more delays. And more delays create more chaos. Before you know it, you are spending all your time putting out fires. And suddenly, you don't feel like the owner anymore. You feel like an employee, an exhausted employee, working inside a business that never stops demanding more. And maybe that's why you're tired. Not because you're working too hard, but because you're dealing with problems your past self promised to handle later. And that's a heavy burden to carry. And maybe that's the real problem. Not the lack of time, not the lack of discipline, not even the lack of motivation. Maybe the problem is that we've made peace with later. We've treated it like a harmless word, when in reality, it's often just a more comfortable way of saying not important. And that's dangerous. Because business doesn't punish you immediately, it punishes you eventually. That's why successful business owners don't wait until things become urgent. They respect small problems because they know small problems have a habit of growing up. A missing receipt becomes hours of stress during tax season. A customer you forgot to follow up with becomes a lost opportunity. A task you postponed today becomes tomorrow's emergency. And emergencies are expensive. So here's a simple rule. When something important appears, don't ask, "When will I get around to this?" Ask, "What can I do about this right now?" Not everything, just something. Send the message, write the number down, make the call, schedule the meeting, take one step. Because action today is almost always cheaper than stress tomorrow. And maybe the goal is not to do everything immediately. Maybe the goal is simply to stop feeding the pile. Because every unfinished task, every postponed decision, every "I'll do it later" is a debt your future self will eventually have to pay. And the truth is, your future self is already busy enough. So be kind to that person. Because most businesses aren't destroyed by bad decisions, they're destroyed by delayed decisions. And the most expensive word in business isn't failure, it isn't competition, it isn't inflation. It's one innocent word: later. So the next time you hear yourself saying, "I'll do it later," ask yourself, what will this cost me if I don't? Because sometimes the most expensive things in business are the things we keep postponing. And if this message resonated with you, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe, because sometimes the right reminder at the right time can save someone a lot of stress later.